watcher in the vents. The old house creaked and groaned as Mia unpacked the last of her boxes. It was her first night alone since moving in, and the isolation of the rural property already felt oppressive. The nearest neighbor was a mile away, and the cell service barely worked. But the rent was cheap, and she needed the quiet to finish her novel. As the evening settled into night, Mia noticed strange noises. Faint scraping sounds echoed through the air vents. She dismissed it as the wind or an animal outside. By midnight she had convinced herself it was nothing. At 2:13 a.m., a loud clatter startled her awake. Heart pounding, she crept out of bed and followed the sound to the living room. The metal grate on one of the air vents had fallen to the floor. She peered inside but saw only darkness. "Rats," she muttered, trying to sound braver than she felt. She reattached the grate, shoved a chair against it, and went back to bed. But sleep wouldn't come. The sound of scratching returned, louder now. It wasn't in the walls, it was inside the vents, moving closer. She grabbed her flashlight and opened the vent again. A blast of cold air hit her face. The flashlight beam illuminated the narrow metal tunnel, but it didn't reach far. Then she saw it. Two glowing eyes staring back. Mia yelped, dropping the flashlight. The beam flickered wildly before going dark. She slammed the vent shut, shoved the chair back, and retreated to the bedroom, locking the door behind her. She tried to call for help, but her phone had no signal. The landline sat dead in its cradle. She grabbed a knife from her bedside drawer and sat on the bed, trembling. Hours passed in silence. She began to think she had imagined it until she heard the voice. "Why did you close the door?" The whisper came from the vent in her bedroom. Mia froze, gripping the knife tighter. The voice was raspy, almost childlike, but laced with malice. "Let me out," it pleaded. "It's so dark in here." The vent cover rattled. She screamed and bolted for the door. As she reached the hallway, the metal grate exploded outward, slamming against the wall. Something crawled out. It was thin, pale, and impossibly long, its limbs bending at unnatural angles. It moved with a terrifying grace, its glowing eyes fixed on her. Mia ran to the front door, but it wouldn't budge. Behind her, the creature spoke again, its voice low and mocking. "Where will you go?" The last thing she saw before the world went dark was the thing lunging at her, its jagged teeth glinting in the moonlight. When the police arrived the next day, the house was empty. The only sign of Mia was her phone, lying in front of the open-air vent, still recording.